Our next guest is somebody who really is not going to need an introduction, you understand.
Yeah, but he expects one.
He doesn't. So you're exactly right. Why don't you start his introduction, and then I'm going to end it, whether he likes it or not.
You know what I thought was impressive about Chuck Gallagher that I did not know? I knew he was a motivational speaker. I knew it was outstanding and inspirational. But what I did not know was the fact that he is an accomplished musician. I mean, we're on Local Biz now, and he goes to the drum set, and wow.
Yeah, Chuck he's like a Renaissance man.
He is a Renaissance man.
That's what he is.
Chuck Gallagher is an American entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's a trainer. He's an author. He is the author of Second Chances and has been featured in media outlets with including Life and Health, Small Business Opportunities, Business Week, CBS, CNN, Lifetime, and National Public Radio. This will be his third year speaking at our small business event. Chuck is also the founder of the production company Primo Productions that has assisted us in virtual event last year and this year at www.chuckgallagher.com. Joe, I am really thrilled to invite back Chuck Gallagher.
Yeah, I just adore Chuck, and I must tell you something. We talk about Steve Gilliland and how he has helped us out. Mm-hmm. Well, we found Steve through Chuck. So Chuck has been helping us longer than Steve, right? And so Chuck has been so helpful. One of the things Chuck has done, as you know, last year, we could not have done this thing virtually without his new studio that he's put together. And this year, it would not happen without his studio. But also, whenever I need a good quality key speaker, I call Chuck, and Chuck knows them all. They all know Chuck, and they respect him enough that he can twist their arm just about as much as I twist him to get him to help us. And it is such a wonderful feeling to know that we've created this friendship over the years, and it started with him walking out on stage in a orange prison suit, and I looked at that and thought, what did I just do? I cannot believe I let this guy up on stage with all of my friends, and it was phenomenal. So I must tell you something.
Absolutely.
Chuck Gallagher is by far one of my favorite people, and I can't thank him enough for doing what he does. And I can't even get into the details of all the things that he has done for us. Chuck, my friend, thank you, buddy. Can you hear us?
Fine. And Joe, I have to say it's probably a little challenging because my head's so big now from that introduction. I'm just saying it's terribly difficult. By the way, I want to go ahead and show, because I assume you can see this. Let me try to put it here. I want to keep the brand going. So of course my phone case is orange, just so we've got the brand going. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. So let's take just a little bit of time. Because, here's the thing. In 2019, as we started a new decade, and some people debated whether the decade starts in 2021 or 2020, doesn't make any difference. But when we ended 2019 and turned that over to zero, none of us anticipated that we would have gone through and be continuing to go through what we have been going through. And it is a game changer for small business. So I want to spend a little time talking about what makes you unique. What is the thing? What is so you that you uniquely offer that your clients need? Now, here's the challenge with small business today. The challenge is a lot of small businesses are not going to make it. What's happened as we turned this new decade is the pandemic, which, by the way, none of us have ever lived through before, right? The pandemic has completely upended the way business is done. It has advanced technology dramatically. We would not be doing this way were it not for the fact that the pandemic took place and we had to shift gears last year. So it has changed a lot of things for small business. Now, let's do this for just a second. Here's the thing. Years ago, 1800s, 1800s, what did we do? We made our living from the ground. We were farmers, we were ranchers. We tilled the ground, we stayed fairly close to each other. The garden was grown in the summer, we put it up for the winter. That was the way it was until the early 1900s. Now you might ask, why are we going through this history lesson? But there's a point. But in the early 1900s-ish or so, we became the Industrial Revolution. We had people that were making steel in Pittsburgh, or in Valdez, North Carolina, where I grew up, it was cotton mills, textiles. But it was making things. It was using our hands to create products that people would buy to make into something else. And then about the time I came along in college, and you can tell by the color of my hair, that's been a long time ago, but back in the 70s, it kind of shifted. It shifted to what we would refer to as a service economy. And just being really practical. When I went to college, nobody went to college and said, I'm going to go to college so I can learn to be a mill worker, or to be a person that works in a foundry. I mean, that was not normal. I went to college and I got a degree in accounting. People were teachers, or they were chemists, or they were accountants, or they were attorneys or doctors or whatever, but it was a service economy. And then not really that long ago, literally last decade, when we were in the teens, the economy actually shifted at that point to a tech and experience economy. Now, okay, let's be kind of practical here for just a second, okay? Joe, Bill, me, our age, we're still kind of in that service economy mode, but a lot of the kids, man, it's about the experience, it's about the technology, it's about the communication. One of the folks in my office today was saying, do you remember the old days of playing like Red Rover and dodgeball? And I was like, yeah, man, those were fun things. Yeah, you can't do it today. You could hurt someone, and it's like, that's so sad. But it's a difference in generations and what's taking place. Now, there's a point to this. The question kind of comes down to, how does your customer know the difference between you and your competition? Now, that's actually a fairly important question. How does your customer know the difference between you and your competition? Because, you see, if we went to 2000 for that 10-year decade, or 2010 to 2019, that 10-year decade, the way business was done was really changing, and then again got just thrown into craziness now. So let's think of a couple of things. Remember Circuit City. I remember Circuit City. I remember going to Raleigh, and I would go to Circuit City, and you could buy all kinds of things there. And of course, it doesn't exist. That's functionally replaced with Best Buy, which, by the way, most people on this, or who are listening in small business, would say, well, Best Buy is certainly not a small business. That's true. It's not. It's a big box store, and it's almost gone out of business. It had to rethink and retool to be relevant. And again, based on my age, I remember the local small business where you would go get a TV and it might be repaired, etc. And the world exists today. That's probably not practical. If the TV breaks, it's so inexpensive, most of the time you chunk it because it would cost more to get it repaired. And you can buy it with Best Buy, Amazon, or Walmart, and none of those are small businesses. Or what about Borders? If you were buying books. Borders is out of business. That leaves Barnes & Noble, which, by the way, just went private and has been teetering on going out of business. Now, okay, Joe, I'm going to commit heresy here. I'm just going to go ahead and admit it, so let me just step up to the plate and say this. But I like going to Barnes & Noble, right? It is not a local bookstore. The local bookseller wants to be relevant in the marketplace today. I get that. I really do. I understand that. But here's what happens with my experience at Barnes & Noble. Here's where heresy kicks in, right? I go to Barnes & Noble with my wife. We go in, we go to Starbucks, we sit down, we get something to eat or to drink or whatever. We browse the place, find the books we like, skim them, see if it's something we want to buy. And when we buy it, I buy it on my phone. I know somebody's not going to like that. There'll be some comments. I can feel it. But let me just be candid. But why do I want to, as much as I traveled and will travel again, why do I want to carry a big, thick book around? That's bulky, it's weight, it's cumbersome when I can literally buy the book. It can live on my phone. I can read it at any point in time I want to and not have to think about it or worry about it. Now, is that good for Barnes & Noble? No. Is it good for a local bookseller? No. But it is the trend that small businesses have to think about if we are going to ultimately survive. And some are not. Now, Staples. Staples is in existence. This is one of those where you say, okay, they're there. Or you could do Amazon. All right? Now, there's a point to those two things, because the question is, if there's no perceived difference, then why would I do business with you? That is, as a small business, a really important question. Why would I choose to do business? And I'll give you an easy example. In the community where I live in, I wanted to buy mulch. And I live on the side of a mountain, so it's not easy to get mulch into the backyard. I'm going to be the first to tell you. It's not the most economic way to get it, but the easiest way to take it back there is bags. So I could go to Lowe's and get it, and it might, I could load it up in the truck or whatever, but I don't have that. Or I could go to the local small business in the community and say, hey, listen, I want to buy, several pallets of mulch. No problem. We'll deliver it to you and stack it for you. That is a level of service that differentiates them from their competitor, and one of the reasons why I will continue to go back. But let me play with this for just a second. Now, you all can, I think, see the whiteboard here, which I can, let's see. I'm going to write, hi, Joe. So that's a differentiator for the work that I do. So let me take that away for just a second and ask the question, why would they buy from you? Here's a short story. So I decided I like whiteboards. I like to be able to write and see things. I'm a visual kind of guy. So I come along, literally Staples is across the street from the office. So I drive across this 7-lane highway over to Staples, and I walk around in the store because I'm trying to find an 8-foot whiteboard. Okay, no big deal. I find the whiteboards, but they're all small. So I'm trying to find someone that can help me. And I walked and I walked and I walked and I walked. And I finally found somebody who had a Staples shirt on. And I said, hey, I got a question. What's up? I was like, well, what a greeting. I didn't say that, but I was like, okay. I said, do you all have 8-foot whiteboards? He said, yep, sure do. Online. So we don't carry them in the store. Nobody buys that stuff here. I said, oh, okay. He said, here's what you do. He says, you go online. He said, you order it, and it's free delivery. And I said, oh, no kidding. Thanks. And he literally walks off and just disappears about as quick as I was able to find him in the first place. Gone. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I walked out of the store, got in my car, drove across 7 lanes of traffic, went to the office, onto staples.com to order the 8-foot whiteboard. Found it, no problem. Put it in to have it delivered. Put my address in. I'm sorry, we cannot deliver there. I must have mistyped it because I get FedEx and UPS packages there all the time. I typed it again. I'm sorry, we can't deliver there. I typed it the 3rd time. I'm sorry, we can't deliver there. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I went to Amazon. Now, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, that's a nemesis of small business. But let me play it out for just a second, because there is something important to what happened. Was it cheaper on Amazon? No. Same price. Exactly the same price, in fact. However, Amazon had a little button. A little button that said, for $67, would you like to have this professionally installed? Now, I thought to myself, do I look like the kind of guy that wants to manhandle an 8-foot whiteboard, try to mount it on a sheetrock wall, hoping that when I write on it, it doesn't fall on me or create a workman's comp case for one of my employees? I don't think so. Yeah, I'll pay the $67, so I clicked the button, place the order. 3 days later, the whiteboard arrives. 2 days later, a feller comes in. He's got a tool belt on. He says, I'm here to install your whiteboard. And it's installed and perfectly mounted on the wall today. So the point becomes, if we're sitting there as a small business, we really have to think about what is it that we do that will cause people to choose us in the environment we're in. In fact, distinction is the ability to attract customers because what you do is so compelling that loyalty is assured. Loyalty is assured. My local hardware store has my loyalty because I know that what they do is so compelling that I'm going to continue to go back. So let's play this out for a second and think of a couple of ideas. Idea number one, okay? Do what others are unwilling to do. What the heck does that mean, Chuck? Do what other people are unwilling to do. So, well, but what does that mean? So let's do this. Let's do a think outside of the box example. Okay, quick example. In the world we live in today, anybody that is paying any attention to Small Business Week, that is listening, whether it's Facebook Live or whatever method this is being delivered, knows real estate is white hot. I have never, and I am almost 64 years old, never seen a real estate market like it is right now. Okay? And you all know as well as I do that when a real estate market's white hot, the one thing that generally is true is there are a fair number of people who are in the real estate business, as in realtors, who are probably doing pretty well. The biggest challenge they have is not the buyers, it's having inventory to sell. Now, that said, I had the opportunity to talk with a local realtor in our market area, and she made the comment to me. She said, you know, in the real estate world, the listing agent typically gets 3% and the selling agent typically gets 3% or whatever the percentages are, but that's the average. And so you want to be a listing agent if you can, because that assures you you're going to get a revenue stream. And this particular agent had been an agent for 5 years, but was not a high producing listing agent. So we started talking and I said, well, what are the 10 questions that people always ask when it comes time to list your house? I want to sell my house. I want to be able to get a lot of money for my house. What do I need to do? What do I need to know? What are the questions? And she rattled those questions off like that. And I said, great. Now, if I wanted to list my house, what would be the first thing I would do? She thought for a second. She said, well, you probably go to Google and search listing my house. And probably you would ask some of those questions. I said, wonderful. Have you answered those questions? And she just looked at me and I said, let's play this out. And we searched the questions. And fascinatingly enough, there was nobody in the marketplace who staked out their claim by answering those 10 questions on a Google blog or on YouTube. And YouTube, owned by Google, is one of the most logical places, in fact, the second largest search engine in the country. So if you've got a product or you've got a service you're wanting to sell, would you not naturally answer the questions that customers are asking? I mean, that made sense. So here's what we did. We crafted the 10 questions. We created video for her answering those questions. We populated that on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And here's what happened. Her rate of the increased rate, that's a better way of putting it, the increased rate that she had of listings went up dramatically. Now that means she was taking it away from somebody, because a house is a house is a house and it's only going to get listed once. But because she was doing what the customers were looking for and thinking outside the box, most of the realtors were thinking about how do I advertise the sale of the house. Very few were focused on how do I get the house into the system in the first place. Okay? That's what I consider to be the distinction advantage. Now, let's play with idea number 2. So I'm going to leave this on the screen. Have you ever been bitten by an elephant? And the answer to that question should be no. What about a mosquito? Yes. The other night, in fact, and the welt on my arm is driving me crazy, but that's a different issue. So let's play this out. What's the truth ahead? It's the little things in life that will bite you. It's those little things that either bite you or the little things that will create your distinction advantage. And what I want to do is I want to ask the question, who's your target audience? Who is it that you're actually, if you're a small business, you need to be able to answer that question just like that. I know in the world that I live in, I'm a vice president in a public company. I absolutely know who our audience is. I also own several small businesses. I can tell you right this moment who the audience is and who I should attract, because I've ultimately got to know that so I can figure out how to connect to them. And that connection, that word connection, that's a key as a small business owner, because how we connected for the past 10 to 15 years is dramatically changing as compared to how we connect today, especially when you're a baby boomer and you know who Keith Richards is. Because I'm going to challenge you, a lot of people in small business, especially if we had this function and it was live, Joe, if I went out and said, and Keith Richards, half the audience wouldn't have a clue who it is, which means that the generational difference means that we're also connecting or thinking about connecting differently. So let's play out a picture. Let me put this picture up here. Everybody, I believe, everybody would tell you, whether you like the folk at Chick-fil-A or not, and I do like those folk and I like their food, but everybody will tell you the pandemic hit, fast food restaurants shuttered the inside, it closed down, and it took weeks. And somehow they must have engineers on site to figure out how do we direct traffic, create 2 lanes, have the drive-through area, have our people out there capturing the order, taking the card, providing the cash, delivering the food to your car. I don't know how many people have told me that if we wanted to really improve the vaccination rate in the United States, just give it to Chick-fil-A and let them pop you in the arm with Pfizer. Because the reality is they have it down to a science. And here's the thing. They know their market is people who want to have some form of fast food quickly. Now, I'm going to ask this question. And if you've ever been to, play it out, Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, name some other fast food place, have they replicated what Chick-fil-A's done? And the answer is generally no. They might have tried a little, but they have not embraced what needs to take place when there's disruption in the marketplace. So here's the deal. The same old thinking don't get you the same old results. And in a new decade, those same old results might find that someone who is more progressive in their thinking, not politics, but in their thinking, like Chick-fil-A, will capture market share and get lots of positive comments taking place. Okay, let's play with idea number 3. Okay? I'm going to put this on the screen big. I want to make sure people can see it. Do you care more about your competitors or your customers? Okay. Now, I believe it's important to care about what your competitors are doing. I do believe that. I think it's important to know what your competitors are doing. But knowing what your competitors are doing doesn't necessarily mean you are innovating what your customers may want to have done. Okay? Now, everybody's like, Amazon is so big and so forth. I get it. I get it. But Jeff Bezos, who announced his retirement, I think effective the 5th of July, moving into a different role, but he said, my focus is on my customers. Look, there's nobody on this call. You can talk bad about them all you want. I get it. But most everybody on this call probably has an Amazon subscription or at least goes to Amazon to buy things. And at some point, you have to ask yourself the question, as we move forward to a more experience-based society, why would we do something different if they make it easy? Now, well, that's not supporting small business. See, there's where the fallacy is. I can have a small business that uses Amazon as a distribution system and reach people that I would never reach in Simpsonville, South Carolina, or in Greenville, South Carolina. Amazon isn't, somebody that's causing me consternation. It gives me a distribution arm that otherwise I may not have. Now, I'm not saying you have to like them, but I'm saying the focus on the customer is what created the difference. That is the exact reason, because Staples customer service related to ordering online stunk, and Amazon made it easy for me to buy and install, which added a different level to what I was looking at. So The question then becomes, what do your customers want? Okay? What's your differentiator? What is the thing as a small business? I mean, this is a really important question, okay? Real important question. What's your differentiator? What is the thing that would cause someone to say, okay, I'm going to buy from you versus the other people out there who happen to do X? You know, I made the comment. Joe, thank you for the comment earlier, but I own a video production company. Well, yeah, but there's a lot of people that do video. I mean, you know, most any kid out of college can do video. And gosh, if you've got a phone like this, you can shoot video. So what's the differentiator? And in my case, the differentiator is we think differently. It's not about the video. It's about why your video will sell you and generate revenue. Because I don't care what you produce in video. If it's not making you any money, it's not working. And if you're not using video, then you're not attacking the marketplace. So the reality is clients are seeking innovative solutions to problems, and in many cases that they may not yet see. That's the key for small business. See, we're nimble, we're small, we can move at lightning speed if we choose. Whereas some of the larger organizations, they don't have that same nimbleness that a small business has. So, look, I'm going to do this. I want you to look at this picture for just a second. Look at the picture. That's going to be a little bit funny, by the way. And you ask yourself, what do you see? I see several guys. I see what looks to be a big cooker. They got chef hats on. You know, okay, that's kind of cool. Now, what is that? Oh, by the way, that's from the Best Funeral Ever. I know that's weird to hear from a small business, but let me just play this out for just a second. Because, you know, let's be honest, most funeral homes are small business. But in this particular case, this is a funeral home out of Dallas, Texas. They recognize that, for the most part, a funeral is an experience. It's an ability to honor and celebrate the life of someone. So what did they do? Now, this particular case, this, by the way, is a real picture. This is not staged. In this particular case, the guy owned a barbecue place. So what happened? They made a cooker his casket, a smoker his casket. So consequently, these are the pallbearers carrying the casket of the guy that owned the barbecue place and one of the cookers that they had previously used. By the way, let me point this out for just a second. They have 63% of the market share for the clientele that they serve. 63% of the market share is amazing for a small business. But they recognize it's not same old, same old. There has to be something unique and something different about it. You see, sometimes it's so possible that we get caught up in the routine that we miss the opportunity to create exceptional. To create exceptional means we're going to create an amazing experience. If as small businesses, we can create an experience that's amazing, that causes people to sit back and to say, my gosh, that was awesome. That was so much fun. That was great. I never thought about it that way. If we can do that, then the reality is we will not have a problem keeping customers, and in fact, we will easily attract customers. Now, Joe, we're going to wind this down here in just a minute. We can carry on some conversation, have a little bit of fun with this, but you know, here's the truth ahead. If we don't understand what our customers want and then deliver, we won't survive the future of tomorrow. Let's be really practical. The future of tomorrow is going to be a whole lot different than what it is today. I mean, just listen. Think about this for just a second. Just think about Ford this week, or last week, I guess, the 19th, announced the Ford F-150 Lightning. You know, their first electric F-150, not their first electric vehicle, but their first electric F-150. I think all the people that buy F-150s. So you think about that. Then you think about the Teslas that are out there. Now, a lot of people, everybody drives a gas car. Very few people that I know of drive an electric car. But you start to think about it and you start to hear about it. And the next thing you know, this is the best way for me to put it. I go back to the days when I remember we had a cell phone and it was in a bag, brick or bag. You carried it in your car and you didn't have much of a signal. And then it went to a flip phone. In fact, a lot of us remember the Motorola Razr, which was almost indestructible, and it was a great phone. And we called them a phone. It was called a cell phone, because what did you do with it? You talked to people. That's the whole point of having a cell phone. And then it went to the BlackBerry. And that's when all of us got hooked into work forever, because, oh my gosh, now we can get email on our phone and then people expect us to answer it. Heaven forbid that we don't actually leave at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whenever it happens to be, because work is work is work, and we do it when we need to, just like being on this program tonight. That's part of what we do as small businesses. But remember what happened from there. The BlackBerry functionally died because Steve Jobs says, well, I believe we need to have a device with one button. And by the way, these iPhones used to have one button that was in the center, but now there is no button, not at least in the newer models. So that transformation happened dramatically. That same dramatic transformation is going to be happening as we sit across today and look at where this world is going. Now, that's 2021. 2025 is going to be so dramatically different than where we are now. We won't be able to imagine a lot of that. And by 2030 to 31, assuming I'm still alive, that's going to be like George Jetson kind of stuff. Now, it may not be as freaky as that, but think about it. We've got Roomba vacuum cleaners. We're sitting here with Zoom and Skype. We're communicating. We don't have to literally physically move to go places. We can communicate at the speed of light and the speed of sound. And that's going to be the thing that helps the small business understand where your market is, where it's going, and how to pivot in order to be able to get there. So reality is, I think all of us want to make a difference. And I believe the way to do that is, in small business especially, is to create for yourself the distinction advantage. Now, Joe, with that, I'm going to shut up because you said I'm a speaker and I can talk a lot, and I needed to make sure that I did not overstay my welcome with you guys, but I'm happy to sit back and to carry on some conversation, and let's see where this goes.
Chuck, thank you so much, buddy. I really do appreciate it. And you would never overstayed your welcome, my friend.
You're so kind.
So, talk to me about how you create your different topics that you speak on, because Chuck Gallagher is this guy that recreates himself every year or so, right? Every time you and I talk, there's a new topic, there's a new discussion that we're having. Talk a little bit about how you do that.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Number one, remember, you got to think about what is it that you do. This is Small Business 101. What do I do? Who is my market? Okay, so let's be practical for a second. I'm a speaker, so I speak. My market are people who are meeting planners who are hiring people to speak. Now, I don't speak on every topic. That would be stupid because I'm not competent and qualified to do that. But what I am capable of doing is looking and seeing within my area of competence, what is the trending topic? What is the thing that people are interested in that we can spend some time discussing and talking about? And I don't prefer, Joe, to talk just to hear my head roar. I really hope that people walk away and, get something that they can sit back and say, never thought of it that way. Now, I'm just a simple example, but like with the realtor, I mean, at that point, now that happened in one place, and then all of a sudden, then realtors started thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe in my market area, so call it Detroit. I don't care where it is. It could be, Huntersville. It could be Bryson City. But, if you're that realtor and you want to create a distinction in your market and make that work. So my job is to try to identify what those trends are and then ask myself the question, how can I tap in with my experience to those trends to provide value to the customers that I serve?
Amazed at how technology is playing in business, because I'm one of those guys, I'm still trying to figure out the fax machine. I don't understand how we can put a document in that goes across the country. But but share, you just talked about the evolution of some of the products, and yeah, I remember when my wife had the bag phone in her car, and I do remember the flip phones and everything, and the evolution and the process. And it's just been phenomenal. And Joe and I were just talking about that, earlier tonight, how we've continued to see that evolution take place in technology and how it's changed business. The internet has changed business.
Yeah, it has. And here's the thing. In some ways, if you look at the trends, right, and you ask yourself the question, well, where is this going? So let's play this out for just a second, okay? So let's say that by 2030, there are a whole lot more electric cars on the road than there are today. Now, a lot of people would say, well, I can't go to the gas station and charge the car up, and it happened real fast, and there's no charging stations and so forth. I get that. So a couple of things will take place. Number one, you'll start seeing more charging stations. Watch it over the next 5 years. Charging stations will become a thing. But two things that are both disruptive. One, if I was an electrician, man, I'd be all over this, right? Because most people with an electric car will drive their car home, park it in the garage at night, plug it in, charge it from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., whatever it happens to be. When you get up, you got a full tank of electricity, which means the electrician is going to make money taking that line from your box 220 to the garage so you can plug it in, so you can plug your car in. So if I'm an electrician, I'm going to milk that for all it's worth. Here's the other side to it. However, that means if I own a convenience store, I've got to rethink, why are people going to stop at the convenience store if they don't need gas? So what is it that I'm going to offer there that will cause people to stop if they're driving a Tesla or a Ford F-150 Lightning or whatever it happens to be? And then the question from an economic perspective is for Pickett, I don't care, Mecklenburg County, Davie County, or the state of North Carolina. What happens when you get enough electric vehicles on the road that they're no longer buying gas and paying gas tax? How do you pay for your roads? It's disruptive. But anytime there's disruption, there's also opportunity. So the question is, are you opportunistic enough to see where those chances are that you can, in fact, provide value and service? Or do you get on the backside of it, which, it would suck if you were BlackBerry, because that kind of disruption that Steve Jobs brought with the iPhone functionally killed BlackBerry.
Just so you know, Sam James is reaching out to you on Facebook. So I thought you might want to know that he's a local funeral owner here in the area.
And our small business of the year for Huntersville, Joe.
This year,
Sam James, Huntersville Small Business of the Year.
Sweet.
You
nice.
got the small businessman reaching out to you.
Great.
So Chuck, one of the things that you and I have talked about is the fact that you do more than just speak, right? During the pandemic year, I know most of the comedians and people that just spoke had a really hard time because it was hard to figure out who we're going to speak to, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, and then it took some time, probably the first half of the year, to figure out how this Zoom will work and will people listen through the Zoom and that sort of stuff. But you have been this entrepreneur that has done other things other than speaking. And that's one of the things I preach to my clients all the time. I do think you need to have these different disciplines and these different focuses because we're not exactly sure. You mentioned something like convenience store. I don't know exactly what that convenience store is going to look like in the future. It may be that I got to plug in and wait 30 minutes. So now they get me for 30 minutes instead of 3 minutes to grab a Twinkie and come out. I don't know yet, right? And so talk a little bit about one of the things you do is these sort of, I call them different disciplines, different things that you do, and it really does round out our lives and make us more comfortable. It sort of calculate the risk or mitigate the risk, if you will.
Well, okay. So this is going to be a kind of a weird way to answer that question, but I believe we're all kind of given certain God-given gifts, right? Sometimes we don't recognize what they are early on, and eventually we'll get nudged back on track. But in my case, I've always been a salesman, although I didn't recognize that. You mentioned that I was involved in music. I started off as a music major in college. When I was 16 years old, I made a record album. Those were the days when records were vinyl, right? Okay, but I was kind of poor. I grew up in the housing projects when I was a teenager. So basically, I went to the local businesses and said, "Hey, listen, I want to make this record. If you'll help me make it possible, I'll put advertising in the record so every person that buys one, they'll see you supported this." And I raised enough money to be able to do that. So sales, music was performance, and what do? I speak. So that's performance using my voice because I was a voice major. Now I went into accounting because I didn't want to be poor. Kind of screwed that up, earned me the orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, kind of not so good. Mom always said death and taxes, totally screwed up taxes. So when I got out of prison, I sold cemetery property door to door because I figured, there were songs that like one way or another, we're gonna get you. Well, I'm sorry, that's just so bad. But yeah, I kind of have a warped sense of humor. But the reality of it is, I've always recognized that if I focused on what I was good at, whether it's speaking, whether it's selling, or the creative world, which is where the video comes in, if I focus on doing that, there are plenty of opportunities. I don't have to be siloed into doing one thing. And you mentioned my really, really dear friend, Steve Gilliland. Steve and I have had many, many conversations. And, one of the comments that I made to him was that, Steve, the majority of people that hire us guys now are probably in their late 30s, mid 40s. So we're kind of like male, pale, and stale. I said, the only advantage I've got over you is I've been to jail. So I got one other rhyming thing that goes with this. Right? But if we're not creating something that is distinctive enough that causes people to say, "Oh man, I need to listen to that guy," we will not sell our service. So we have to always be thinking about being on that cutting edge. And I look at it, Joe. Now this seems like altruistic, but in the video production company, I'm the old guy. I'm the guy that runs a business, guy that owns this thing. But I've got 4 full-time video editors, recorders, etc. But 4 full-time guys. The oldest one's 30. The rest of them are in their 20s. Here's the thing. They're brilliant at what they do. Don't have a clue how to run a business, but they're brilliant at what they do. And what I want to do, this is just kind of a heart's desire type thing, is I know that over the course of the next 10 years, if I create a company that is so compelling, it will be beneficial to me as I age out and become a graceful senior, and it will become a business that they can walk into. And so I can teach them the value of how to run a business. They can teach me how to be on the cutting edge of video so that we can provide content to people that kicks butt.
Right. Chuck, I can't thank you enough, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking. Thank you so much for the production of this show and for tomorrow, my friend. You are truly a treasure, and I know Bill and I just could not have done this last year and this year without you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Listen, it's an honor, and I love the fact that you guys are doing this and supporting small business. There is nothing more important in our country than a vibrant, positive, productive, and successful small business.
Well,
thanks.
Chuck, Joe and I, we may be male and pale, but we're not stale.
That's true. That is so true.
Chuck, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And this concludes our first evening with Bill Russell. Bill, I mean, where do I start, Bill? Steve Gilliland, Tracy Austin, Danny Decker, and Chuck Gallagher. And what
Tom
a excuse me?
We had Tom Tillis.
And we had Tom Tillis on, and we had Jordan X, Chamber President.
Yep, David Keith.
And so we thank you so much for this. We hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, we're going to do this again with an entirely different group of people. I must tell you something. Tomorrow is going to be as good as this this evening was with a whole new group of people. Do you want to talk about our sponsors one more time, Bill?
Absolutely. None of it would be possible, though, without Novant Health Huntersville Medical Center. I want to thank Mike Riley and for being the presenting sponsor. Thanks to Novant, they were a presenting sponsor of our whole Small Business Week. Central Piedmont Community College, again, a tremendous supporter of our Chamber of Commerce and an institution working with our business community. So I can't say enough about CPCC. Lakeside Living Magazine, Business Today, Cornelius Today, and also WSIC.
You know, Bill, when you list those sponsors, every one of them are in and around our community, not just for an event like this, but all year long.
Yeah, they really are. And I want to thank Kathy Ames, who was here earlier, too. She sharing what's going on down there at the hospital. And again, tomorrow we're going to focus on wellness when we're talking about to Novant.
Great. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Joe.
And that's it for this evening, and we will see you tomorrow. We're going to be a little bit early because we're going to have Rusty live.
Yes,
correct?
we were. We have the mayor of Davidson playing
Live.
for you, and tonight was mostly instrumental. Well, it was all instrumental. He is actually going to be singing to us, so it's going to be a thrill. It's going to be really good.
It's going to be great. See you tomorrow.